What's good, y'all? It's your good sis Erica Vane here to break down episode 1 from season 1 of BMF. Let's get into it. All right, y'all, I ain't gonna hold you. I did not even really know, or maybe it was just like something happening in the periphery that I didn't pay attention to, but I had no idea about the Black Mafia family. I wasn't really keyed in on what was going on there, which is crazy because I spent a good amount of my childhood in Detroit. When I was 2 years old, my dad moved to Detroit to go to Wayne State. He's actually from the Caribbean. He met my mom at Morgan State in Baltimore, and then went to graduate school at Wayne State and moved to Detroit. And then also, got married and basically set up shop there. So I spent every summer and some Christmases, like full on summers, y'all. Like my father was like, the day after school ends until the day before school starts is when you with me, so bring your ass. But I spent every summer and some Christmases and other like school vacations in Detroit. So I spent a lot of time like just growing up in Detroit. However, my father was not with the shits. He was not playing any of that. He definitely has, though he's from St. Thomas Virgin Islands, he definitely operates more like an immigrant in that he has like a bunch of hustle to him. He's about like staying on the right side of the law, and all he really cared about when I was growing up was like working hard and going to school. So while I was in Detroit, he definitely shielded me from as much as he could. Like I still experienced some things and learned some things there because just you live life and you black, right? So things happen. But I definitely didn't even know all of what was happening with the Black Mafia family was actually happening in the time that it was happening. So for me, just looking at this series and knowing like I spent great deals amount of time there and didn't even realize that it was like literally happening a skip, hop, and a jump away. It's crazy, but I'm excited to watch this series. The first episode to me was given a bunch of exposition for the people like myself who don't necessarily know what we're looking at, right? Like, see BMF the letters, you hear Black Mafia family, and you get the brand, you get the marketing, you get all of the things that people say about it. But this show is 50 taking us into the actual world and not us just hearing about it, but us actually seeing the ins and outs and what happens. So the first episode is dedicated to, honestly, their humble beginnings. Personally, I feel like they moved a little bit quickly through it. We start with a flashback to 2005, but then we jump back into the 1980s where they actually start off. And in the episode, Meech gets kicked out of his house by his parents after they find a gun that Terry actually had. He's the one who introduces Terry to Pat, who gets them both started in the business. They become partners and they set up their own little organization. And all this happens or they show all of this in the first episode, even down to the point of like showing them being the 50 boys, which they got that name because they were selling $50 bags of coke, and that's all they did. So a lot happens, or they have to catch us up really, really quickly in episode 1, and I kind of wish they would have spent a little bit more time on some of the nuances behind certain things. Like they have a saying, which is the title of the episode, which is "See it, touch it, obtain it," and little things like I kind of want to know, when did they come up with that? Where did that become their motto? Like just those things. Like we don't actually get to see when Meech got started with Pat. We just know that he already is where we get dropped into the show, and then we just see the day that he lets Terry come with him with Pat, and then it just moves kind of quickly in that regard. But they only have 8 episodes with this season, so they do have to give us a lot in a very short amount of time. So I can imagine that's why they're actually speeding through it. But in this episode, at the start, we're starting in 2005, and we see Meech released from jail, and it's kind of like a welcome home party, congratulations, all of that kind of stuff. And then we flash back into the 1980s, and through the time that we spend in the 1980s, we really just get a really quick understanding of who Meech is and who Terry is and who they are together. They have quite a bit of little back and forth beefs, even to the point of like one of their lieutenants is like, do y'all do anything that's like familial at all? Like, do y'all ever hug? Because they are always bickering. Meech is the smooth talker. He is the one who is going to parlay different things. He's going to set up different things, and he feels like he can talk his way out of pretty much anything. And Terry is more so like use less words and more force. And you can kind of see how their personalities play out when they organize a parlay with the 12th Street Boys at this championship game, and they do it because they know that they can't be armed. But Terry sneaks in a gun because that's just who he is, and he didn't even tell Meech that that's what he was going to do and that's how he was going to move. So we get to see the starts of that. And while they are solid and they have loyalty to each other as family, they have 2 very different ideas in reference to how business should be done, and that is consistently bumping up against each other throughout the first episode. Now, aside from the struggles of standing up their drug organization, getting from up under Pat and stepping in and being able to control their own thing, like in the episode, they ask and are denied by Pat to get more work or to basically shift their relationship for them not just to be corner boys, but they actually want to be distributors underneath Pat's organization, and he says no. But the bigger thing that I think is going to be the big bad or the antagonist is this Lamar Cyrus character. We see the schizophrenic gangster that just recently got released from a mental facility who's coming back with a vengeance. They are slinging, the 12th Street Boys and the 50 Boys, they are slinging on his corners. Nothing is as he remembers. He's been away for 2 years. Instead of actually going to jail for the crimes that he committed, his lawyers got him put into a mental facility, which was supposed to be for 4 years, but he got out after 2, and now he's back and literally fucking shit up, y'all. He feels some type of way. He slams one of the little clerks at the Coney Island's head up against the counter because the right person isn't there. He don't want these boys on his corners. Meech happens to be sleeping with his ex, and now he getting his feelings about that. So this dude is coming for Meech and the 50 Boys, like the whole organization. By the end of the episode, when we see Terry shot in the face, I'm going to assume that it was Lamar that did it, but we don't actually get to see who the actual person was who's pulling the trigger. But Lamar is going to be a problem. He is somebody who other characters in the first episode, like Pat, speak highly of in reference to he's highly dangerous, he's highly unstable, he's highly not to be f***ed with. So keep it moving. And dude got 666 on his license plate. Like, child. If trying not to be disowned and embarrass your parents isn't enough, if trying to stand up a drug empire isn't enough, if both of y'all having babies and trying to make that work and be the best men that you can possibly be isn't enough, they done sprinkled on this Lamar Cyrus character. And if everything else don't ruin them or push them to the brink of ruin, then Lamar Cyrus is here to try to make sure that job gets done. In this episode, we get to meet a ton of characters who we are going to need to know and pay attention to. Most notable, I think, is Kato. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else comes up in reference to her story, being the female who's kind of like leading the organization and running with these boys. One of the things that stood out the most to me was in the school scene with Terry, teacher is discussing philosophy, and they say a man cannot see beyond his own material self-interest. And that to me becomes the theme of not only this episode, of probably what we're going to see with this series, because at the end of the day, both Meech and Terry are just trying to make money and trying to come up. They're trying to find a way out of what their current life is. Like at the top of the episode, we see them, they don't have enough milk to be able to have separate bowls of cereal. They don't have hot water. They're not necessarily a very well-off family, and a lot of what they did and when turned into drugs and criminal activity was so that they could create a better life and be able to support themselves and their family. And I think that this quote is so great because a lot of their missteps is also going to come from that pursuit of like that next dollar or that next bigger check or to grow. We see Meech quite often in this episode talk about how he just wants more, he wants bigger, he wants grander, and he's tired of people slowing him down or telling him no and all of this. And that ultimately, I think, is probably what we're going to see play out in reference to not only the rise BMF, but then also the fall in reference to a man cannot see beyond their own material self-interest. And I love that. I love that they actually use that quote and they started to pepper in a little bit of philosophy. Y'all let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I think I want to do separate videos on each of the characters so that we can talk about them and the roles that I feel like they're going to play. But overall, this was basically like a premise pilot. It gave us a bunch of backstory and exposition for who these people are, what motivates them, how they make the decisions that they make, so that when we see them in their following episodes and get put into different situations, we understand why they're doing what they're doing and how they're doing what they're doing. But again, let me know what you thought about it. That is my breakdown for BMF episode 1. It's your girl Erica Vane. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my BMF coverage, as well as all of my other entertainment series breakdowns. Turn on your bell notifications. It's your girl Erica Vane, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.